morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to GAN, Global Atheist News, our weekly review of how religion impacts humanity. This week's headlines. Growing up in Iran, every morning we had to chant, "Death to America." The once clean-cut Christian star of 19 Kids and Counting was found guilty of downloading and possessing child pornography. The US Supreme Court says Texas abortion clinics can sue over the law. Did the nuns put Joe Biden in the White House? Religion is the number one problem for Nigerians, so says Nobel Prize winner Wole Soyinka. Side chicks are part of God's plan for a successful marriage. Move scripture outside of the classroom, says Western Australia rationalists. Non-religious councillor Victor Franco is now refusing to stand for the recital of Christian prayers at the beginning of meetings. No ho ho. An Italian church apologises over its bishop's claim about Santa. Rana Rahimpur grew up in post-revolution Iran. She says, every morning we had to chant, "Death to America." As a young journalist who wanted to report on her country without restrictions, Rana decided to move to the UK, where she now works at BBC Persian. But the move has come at a high personal cost, leaving her and her children unable to go home to Iran for fear of arrest. See this video.
We have been unable to go home to Iran for fear of arrest. When I was living in Iran as a child, the United States was portrayed as the enemy. At school, on television, in the curriculum, and every morning when we queued up before going to the classroom, we had to chant "Death to America." My mother was very independent. She had a career. She didn't wear the headscarf, but when the revolution happened, it turned out to be compulsory for women to cover their hair. And that's just one example of several restrictions on women's life. In 2013, my parents were interrogated by the intelligence agents in Iran. Their passports were confiscated, and they were told that they should stop me from working for the BBC. There are all sorts of campaigns against us, starting from smear campaigns on social media and then death threats against myself, my children, my family inside the country, you name it, they try it. It's difficult, without a doubt. I haven't been able to go home for 14 years and I can't see that happening anytime soon. And I miss my family. It's difficult to miss family gatherings, funerals, weddings. But if you give in to bullies, you encourage bullies. Well, I have 2 small children, and a lot can happen in their lifetime, especially given how unpredictable politics is in the Middle East. At this very moment, I'm not very hopeful, but it's always a possibility. My children ask me all the time, why can't we go home? Why can't we go and visit Granny and Grandpa? And I have to explain, and it's a very difficult conversation because I don't want them to be bitter about my country. But then at the same time, I have to be honest with them. And hopefully one day we can all go and visit.
Now to the USA. The once clean-cut Christian star, Josh Duggar, lead character of 19 Kids and Counting, broke down in tears as marshals placed him in handcuffs. A week-long federal trial in Fayetteville, Arkansas, heard how Josh Duggar used his considerable tech skills to scour the dark web for videos of little girls being tortured, humiliated, and abused. Duggar had previously made headlines in 2015 when police reports stating that he had molested 4 of his young sisters when he was 12 became public. His parents said he had confessed to the fondling and apologized. Jurors deliberated for 6 hours before returning guilty verdicts on charges of possessing child pornography and receipt of child pornography, both punishable by 20 years in jail and a $250,000 fine. The US Supreme Court has ruled that abortion providers can sue to challenge a controversial Texas abortion law. The law, known as SB 8, gives people the right to sue doctors who perform an abortion past 6 weeks before most women know they are pregnant. Doctors, women's rights groups, and the Biden administration have heavily criticized the law, which came into effect on the 1st of September and bans abortions after what some refer to as a fetal heartbeat. The law makes an exception for cases of medical emergency, but not for rape or incest. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists says that at 6 weeks, a fetus has not yet developed a heartbeat, but rather an electronically induced flickering of tissues that will become the heart. The Texas law is enforced by giving individuals from Texas or elsewhere the right to sue doctors who perform an abortion past the 6-week mark, or anyone who assists with that process, even the taxi driver that brought the patient to the clinic. At issue at the Supreme Court was whether 2 groups, Texas abortion providers and the federal government, can sue to block the law. Friday's 8-1 ruling means that lawsuits from the providers can proceed. With the decision, the ruling will head back to the district court. Once back in the district court, the providers will be able to file for a stay of enforcement and ultimately challenge the law's constitutionality. In the meantime, the law will stay in place. The latest Pew Research Center survey of the religious composition of the United States find the religiously unaffiliated share of the public is 6% points higher than it was 5 years ago and 10 points higher than a decade ago. The fastest growing segments of the American religious landscape are atheists, agnostics, and nothing in particulars. In 2008, these 3 groups together, often called the nones, represented 22% of the population. But just 12 years later, their numbers surged to 34% of the populace. Given that 1 in 3 adults is a nun, it stands to reason that they are having a growing influence on electoral politics. To that end, this recent analysis focused on how those 3 types of unaffiliated Americans shifted their political ideology, partisanship, and voting patterns from 2016 to 2020. The results indicate that Donald Trump's baseline of support dropped from among all types of nuns, and the drop was especially acute for nothing in particulars who had high household incomes in 2020. The secularizing shifts evident in American society so far in the 21st century show no signs of slowing. Christians continue to make up a majority of the US population, but their share of the adult population is 12 points lower in 2021 than it was in 2011. In addition, the share of US adults who say they pray on a daily basis has been trending downward, as has the share who say religion is very important in their lives. Currently, about 3 in 10 US adults are religious nuns, people who describe themselves as atheists, agnostics, or nothing in particular when asked about their religious identity. Now to West Africa. Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka has said that religion is the number one problem hindering Nigerians from being liberated as rational beings. The revered author and playwright made the comment during a recent chat with a professor of African literature, Dr. Louisa Egbunike. He said, "All over the place, I find that religion has been cosseted too much, and liberty has been taken by religionists. Religion has become the number one problem for Nigerians. Hope is all very well, but hope itself can become putrid, especially if it is hope for unearned advantages in society. If religion becomes an excuse for flouting the law, then that religion has got to be tackled head on. If, for instance, a legislator, later a governor, can claim the right to be a paedophile and indulge in cross-border child trafficking, celebrating child marriage, consummating that event, which is against the law of a nation, and he says he has a right to do it because his religion permits it, then both he and that religion should just be shown the way to the law courts and treated like other phenomena of society. If you can use religion to excuse building a church which collapses on the head of humanity, many of them not from Nigeria, several from South Africa, and then say it was caused by supernatural forces, when you know very well that you flouted the conditions for increasing the floors of your building. So this is what has become the daily reality for Nigerians. Religion has got to be put in its place in order for people to be liberated as rational beings who can tackle the problems of existence in a rational, collective way, rather than by insisting that it is only along one route that society can be transformed. Take a religion, but practice it at home. Collect around you anyone you want for collective celebration or religious seasons. Nobody quarrels with that. But when you use a religion to subvert the rights of others to the extent of primordial rights, to kill, not just singly, but collectively, to burn down the places of worship of others, then it is about time we treated religion as a crime against humanity. And it's reached that level in societies like Nigeria. Now to Ghana. Side chicks are part of God's plan for a successful marriage, according to marriage counsellor, the Reverend George Lutterod. Mistresses are part of God's grand scheme for successful marriages. He disclosed that God blesses side chicks, and therefore no curse from an embittered wife would work against another woman. Councillor Lutterod made this shocking revelation on TV3 New Day while discussing boundaries in marriage. He referenced the Bible as proof that God blesses men with more women. he mentioned King David's son Solomon as a man after God's own heart who built a holy temple with his large entourage of wives, mistresses, and concubines. When God is in your business, he blesses you with more women. Those of us who are married to only 2 wives are suffering. A man who marries more than one will never die a premature death. Speaking to the issues of quarrels and unrest from jealousy and rivalry among wives, Councillor Lutterod dismissed those concerns. He emphasised that women love competition and that having co-wives is not a problem. Side chicks are part of marriage, and they are the medium by which men grow longer, older, and don't die prematurely. Side chicks are part of the marriage structure. God blesses side chicks. There is no curse on the side, he said. Now to Australia. In a letter to Education Minister Sue Ellery, the Rational Society of Australia's spokesperson Vicky Caulfield said the government should update its guidelines to stop religious missionaries from taking over precious learning time. The letter says, "Dear Minister Ellery, I'm writing on behalf of the Rationalist Society of Australia, RSA, and our supporters in Western Australia. As you would be aware, Spencer Park Primary School in Albany has decided to discontinue with scripture classes after the school conducted a survey of parents and guardians and found that the majority of them wanted it gone. Based on the Spencer Park experience, the RSA urges you to update your department's 2015 guidelines on special religious education in public schools. The state's Social Education Act 1999 says public schools must not promote any particular religious practice, denomination, or sect. Yet, in many public schools across the state, Christian ministries are allowed to enter our schools to deliver Bible studies during class time with up to 1 hour a week provided to Scripture. As a principle, we believe that Western Australia's state schools should be secular. They should not be used by Christian missionaries to take over precious learning time for religious education, that is, indoctrination. Also, under the Education Department's guidelines, in schools where SRE is offered, students are expected to attend scripture classes unless their parents specifically opt out. We recommend that this rule be reversed to become an opt-in system that ensures parents and students are fully aware of their choices. We urge you to update your department's guidelines. Also in Western Australia, non-religious councillor Victor Franco is refusing to stand for the recital of Christian prayers. See this video by the Rationalist Society of Australia. It has no sound. Now to Italy. A Roman Catholic diocese in Sicily has publicly apologized to outraged parents after its bishop told a group of children that Santa Claus doesn't exist. Antonio Staglioni was trying to focus on the story of Saint Nicholas when he told children Santa did not exist, says a church in Sicily. Bishop Antonio Staglioni didn't mean the comments and was trying to underline the true meaning of Christmas and the story of St. Nicholas, a bishop who gave gifts to the poor and was persecuted by a Roman emperor, says the Reverend Alessandro Paolino, the communications director for the Diocese of Noto. Italian news reports quoted Staglioni as saying during a recent religious festival that Santa doesn't exist and that his red costume was created by Coca-Cola for publicity. First of all, on behalf of the bishop, I express my sorrow for this declaration, which has created disappointment in the little ones. And I want to specify that Monsignor Staglioni's intentions were quite different, Paolino wrote on the diocesan Facebook page on Friday. We certainly must not demolish the imagination of children, but draw good examples from it that are positive for life, he continued. So Santa Claus is an effective image to convey the importance of giving, of generosity, of sharing. But when this image loses its meaning and you see Santa Claus known as consumerism, the desire to own, buy, and buy again, then you have to revalue it by giving it a new meaning. But if the public comments section of the Noto page were any indication, the Sicilian parents weren't having any of it. While several welcomed the bishop's attempt to focus on the Catholic meaning of Christmas, others faulted Stagliano for interfering with family traditions and celebrations and crushing the spirits of children whose early years were disrupted by the pandemic. You are the demonstration that, when it comes to families, children, and family education, you don't understand a thing, a commenter, identified as Mary Avola, wrote. Free Thought Hour, my interview show, will be starting in a few minutes, so stay tuned to this channel. It's a bit different this week, since it was recorded earlier, and I'm the guest. But you will be able to chat with me live while it plays. The GAN team won't be back with our weekly news review next week. It will be Christmas Day, and the following week will be New Year's Day. So we're taking a break and hoping that there will be no significant religious impact on humanity over the festivities. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, set the notifications, etc. This has been Global Atheist News. Thank you for watching and a happy Christmas.